Now let's touch on how Christian masculinity, wanting to be the ideal man, affects 7 areas of your life. The first one I'm going to start with is spiritual, because it's the most important one. Your relationship with Christ is the most important, and you should always keep him first. He should be your priority, your minimum point of origin. Through your prayer life, through reading the Bible, being familiar with it, and sharing it with others, how you discuss it, the type of people you surround yourself with. God will put certain people in your life, whether it be for a season or the long term. And keeping him first will also make it easier to get the wrong people out of your life. So spiritually, if everything is in check, everything else will trickle down from there. The next would be physical, which I think is really the most underrated part of it all, because your physical stature, the outside of you is the first thing people see, and it's an indication of where you're growing and where you're going. Train for muscle strength, being able to keep yourself fit, also includes your nutrition and your sleep. And depending on how old you are, your hormones. That's why every man should go get his blood panels done, especially after I'd say 30, to make sure he's not having health issues, but also hormonal issues like his testosterone, high estrogen levels, whatever it may be. And you'll be ahead of the game that way. But physically, if you're in check, and obviously spiritually comes first, but physically, everything else is going to trickle down from there. I think spiritual and physical are definitely the two most important ones. Everything else, you can kind of look at it however you want to on the next 5. Mental. Humility is everything. You can still be confident. You can still be very sure of yourself and still be in humility, because you know that it's because of Christ you are where you're progressing, where you're going. And that mentality always keeps you open to criticism. You should be always accepting of criticism, whether it's directly or indirectly at you, but also be conscientious how you give it out, because a lot of people can't handle it. So it's going to be something that you'll have to learn over time, because as we know, we live in a very feministic society and everybody gets a trophy, no child left behind kind of thing. So people can't deal with it. If you have the mental fortitude to handle criticism and being able to be in a state of humility, then you're going to be accepting of growth, because it all starts with humility. I said it in one of the other videos. To be able to grow, you need to have the 3 ilities. Humility is the first one. It's the mindset. You can't grow without it. And then comes responsibility and accountability. Don't worry or complain. Trust in Christ. Take his yoke upon you. Matthew 11:28-30. Bear fruit of the Spirit in all situations. Galatians 5:22-23. That mentality and having a sense of being in humility is going to grow you in other areas of your life. And it all starts with being open to grow. You know, people don't understand there's a difference between change and grow. Changing is it's not always positive. Growth is always positive. So if you're humble and you're confident in what God's blessed you with, you're content with those blessings, and you share that and you show that, it doesn't matter how people dictate you. You know that you can't do without Christ, and you're in subjection to him. So people are going to perceive things they want to. So emotionally, always keep your composure. Be stoic. Your emotions shouldn't dictate your demeanor or change it. So if you got your emotions in check, your feelings in check, and it's hard as a man, especially the more you progress, the harder things get. You tend to get problems that you never had before, because the more you progress, you can let go of trivial things, but harder things come your way, because if you want to grow and you're chasing excellence and you're chasing growth, you're going to be hit with something you didn't expect. and it'd be coming from people and things you never thought you would expect it to come from. So being able to keep your feels under control, and it doesn't mean that you don't find a way to let it out. You just got to do it maturely. You just don't just blurt it out, and you just don't just hold it in. You got to realize you're having it. Whether it be the negative ones are the worst: jealousy, sadness, anger, those types of things. You can handle them, and especially around your woman, be able to be that emotional rock for her. Because women by nature are emotional. Their feelings are multiple times more than a man gets, especially a mature masculine man. You can console her when she's freaking out, and you can be that rock for her. She might ask you to be vulnerable or to show some emotion or whatever, but deep down inside, she wants you to be the one she can lean on and trust when everything is falling apart. Psychological, which kind of ties in with mental, but I guess it's the basis of both of the last two. In my mind, that's my opinion on it. Nobody's opinion should dictate your decisions or direction, unless it's for growth and correction. Do the work, know your worth, be the prize. And that's coming, again, from a state of humility. You can put in the work and know that you've earned your progress and you've raised your sexual market value, however you want to put it, but your social value, I guess you'd look at it as, among everybody else and where you would be on that scale. But at the same time, you should be more resilient when it comes to people's interactions and stuff. And you got to be relentless. You're going to step on a few toes. You're going to offend a few people. So what? You got to progress. You can't trust anybody to have your best interest at hand. You can trust them, but you can't expect it. Expectations are something that they didn't always agree to, but you can have standards. And you can apply those standards accordingly. You get in life what you tolerate. So psychologically, if you have that mentality to win and not chase people's approval or validation, you're way ahead of the game. Financial. Seek financial security and independence, but don't put money and riches ahead of God or family. The more money you have, the more opportunities it gives you to progress and grow and to be able to take care of your health and wealth in the sense of everything else you have around you. People have debt when it comes to buying cars and stuff. At the same time, too, the more money you have and you stay well within your means, you can take care of that car and ain't got to worry about it. If something happens, whether it be in warranty or not, you can always have the means to take care of it. Every man should have an emergency fund. Every man should be able to live well within his means. And if he has a wife and kids, you're responsible for their budget, for what you do. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you want to progress at a level that allows you to live comfortably and not ever have to worry about money. But it should never come ahead of God or your family. So I like to say, pursue God, chase excellence, absorb the right people and women. And if you're doing that, your priorities are already straight. The right people want to be in your life, and they want to be a complement to it and not take away from it or be put on a pedestal. The last one is socially. And it's probably the one I don't have the most experience with, because I'm kind of a lone wolf in the sense of, like, I love solitude, and it's grown me so much, so it's kind of addictive. And I'm naturally prone to being by myself. The older I get, the more mature and the more I work on being a man, because you were born alone, you're going to die alone. You might have certain people around you, but you're going to go by yourself unless the Notebook happens. But you lead your family and others with humility. Build yourself, your image, your demeanor. That demands respect, submission, interaction from others without saying or doing anything. If you have a strong presence and people know who you are and the progress you made, the way you carry yourself, it goes back to the physical in some ways. And you've got that type of social rapport with people, especially with your job, among your friends, among your network. the type of things you're into, whether it be cars or guns or whatever it may be, that social dynamic is going to add a different aspect that allows other people to come in your life as well, along with the spiritual God putting those people in your life and this is based off like what your interests are, your priorities. That social dynamic and availability is going to allow the right people to come in your life, and they'll want to be like, hey man, I see, what do you think about us doing this deal, or what would you be interested in doing this, or whatever. I'm gonna be honest, that's something I don't have a lot of experience with, but it's starting to open up more because the way I hold myself and work on myself, and people see the improvements in my life. But also too, I'm very particular on how I trust people and who I let in my life, because usually I've always tend to have the mentality that, well, what do they want? What are they trying to get out of this? And so the social is like, yeah, again, I'd say it's my weakest one, but I'm slowly allowing God to put people in my life and interact with people, but on a very cautious and keep them at arm's length kind of basis. So that's the 7. That's the 7 aspects: spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, psychological, financial, and socially. So Christian masculinity, and wanting to be the ideal man, affects those in that way. Y'all might have different opinions on that, and it might change over time. That could change over time, but spiritually, that's the most important one. Everything else will trickle down from there. Physical is definitely second, especially outside, because that's the physical. Spiritual is usually the unseen. I guess something like Ephesians 6:12 comes into play, or 2 Corinthians 4:18, I think is what it is. We focus on the things that are not seen instead of things that are seen. For the things that are unseen, or for the things that are seen are temporary. For the things that are unseen are eternal. And I might have quoted that wrong, but nonetheless, those 2 verses I say play the most into that, and they show the spiritual warfare that happens as a Christian man. If you focus on that and you see that and you know what's going on behind closed doors, or what you can't see with your physical eye, the good Lord will reveal things to you, and you pray for that protection. You pray for that discernment. You pray for that wisdom and guidance that He can give you, and the peace of mind, like Philippians 4:6-7. Don't be anxious for anything, but by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, make your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds through Christ Jesus. It all starts with trusting in God. You can look at James 4:6-7, or James 4:7-8. You look at Matthew 11:28-30, like I said earlier, taking His yoke upon you, because His yoke is easy and your burden, and His burden's light. So if you have that mentality and you're trusting in Him, you pray for Him to help your faith, help your unbelief, your disbelief, your lack of faith. He will. But you got to be committed. You got to make Him Lord of your life. So this is my opinion. This is my view on it. I pray the good Lord allows me to grow in all these areas, but also to experience things that help me, if I'm wrong, have a different mentality on these. But this is at my current state in mind. Like I said, this is my journey. So it might affect yours differently.